𝗥𝗲𝗋 has been unable to walk on his own since a motorcycle accident in 2011 paralyzed him from the waist down. Now, using a device implanted in his brain and his spine, that is about to change. In the future, conditions like paralysis, ALS, and perhaps even blindness will mean something very different from what they meant just a generation ago.
Imagine controlling screens and being able to do all these activities just by thinking about it.
This is the dawn of a new scientific era, where brains and computers team up to help those who need it regain their independence. The journey to that future is the story of these pioneering technologies and the patients willing to test them. It's a journey that begins with a series of movements across a computer screen and one extraordinary step. Across the world, tech companies and universities are vying to discover the best way to connect our minds to machines. Machines that will translate our thoughts and intentions into electronic signals that can control computers, prosthetic limbs, and any device connected to a digital network.
Here's the brain. There's the device inside the brain.
At the center of this scientific revolution lies technology known as a brain-computer interface, or a BCI.
Brain-computer interface is a neural technology that acquires information from the brain, processes it, and then uses it to elicit a specific action.
Scientists have long understood that brain activity can be measured and analyzed, and now they're starting to harness it as well.
When neurons fire in your brain, there's an electrical potential that happens. And if you were to put a simple voltage checker from one part of your head to another part of your head and actually take a voltage measurement, you would actually see that there's a voltage there. And if you take that measurement 250 times per second, now you have a little electrical waveform. That's exactly the signals that we process when we look at brain-computer interfacing.
Every action directed by our brain generates a unique pattern of neural signals. Decoding those signals and producing the effect the brain intended is at the center of brain-computer interfacing. Take, for example, the simple task of operating an internet browser.
As an able-bodied individual, if I decided that I wanted to click on a hyperlink on a web page, I would, first of all, see that web page, pick that link out of any of the other links.
After that decision is made, the brain sends a signal via the motor cortex and the spinal cord to the hand.
And it would cause my hand to move forward. Then eventually, I click a button, that cursor clicks the link, and we're good.
For someone with a spinal cord injury, the brain can still fire off instructions to click on a link, but that message can't get through to the hand due to the injury.
So one way that we can directly help someone with a spinal cord injury is to decode those representations and actually translate that into direct movement of the cursor. That way they don't actually have to move their arm, they don't have to click a button on a mouse. You can just shortcut all of that.
By intercepting signals meant for the hands, a brain-computer interface can give a user the type of freedom to operate a digital device they may have had before an injury. And as our reliance on digital devices grows, so too does the level of independence one may experience with a BCI. But before the benefits of a BCI can be experienced, it needs to be installed or implanted. And since this technology is still so new, that typically means signing up for a clinical trial. At the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab in Laurel, Maryland, Griffin Millsap and Francesco Tenore have been testing implanted brain-computer interfaces in a series of feasibility trials. Before their team implants the device, however, they need to become intimately familiar with the patient's brain.
The individual folds of a brain are like a thumbprint. They're very specific to a person. So when somebody elects to have an implant done, pre-surgical planning is a very important part of this, where the subject consents to various imaging being taken.
The test subject will have an MRI and an fMRI, which helps the team map out which parts of the brain are firing as they try to perform different tasks.
We print out the subject's brain from that scan, and then we just kind of figure out, all right, we have this many sensors that we can put onto the brain. How should we place them? How should we rotate them? And then where do the wires route to actually come out?
The most common BCIs are tiny. Their electrodes are just 1 to 1.5 millimeters long. But since the neurons the device is targeting are located in the outer layer of the brain, the electrodes embed precisely where the action is.
The closer you are to the neurons themselves, the better, the stronger the signal is going to be.
There's an analogy that scientists in this field like to use. Imagine your brain is a stadium, and the individual neurons are the fans inside the stadium.
If our stadium, for example, had a sporting event going on inside of it, and maybe someone scored a goal, the entire crowd would all exclaim at the same time. If you're outside of the stadium, you can probably hear that. You'd probably know that something exciting just happened.
But what these scientists are after is how individual fans, or neurons, are reacting.
So if you wanted to actually get an individual conversation inside of that stadium, the best way to do it is to put a microphone right next to those people. And when you do that, you get a much higher signal to noise ratio. And that's in fact why we do implants. So we can put an electrode right next to the neural population of interest, and we can measure that and more directly decode that behavior.
A trial conducted at the University of California, Davis, demonstrates what can be accomplished today with a well-placed BCI. 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝘁𝗲𝗱 has been living with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS, for more than 5 years. His condition has left him with severely deteriorated mobility and speech.
ALS is a neurodegenerative disease. It starts by impairing your motor capabilities. So that's why over time you become paralyzed. It usually starts from the periphery. So your hands and feet are the first things that you start losing disabilities on, and then it progressively works its way up towards the brain. The last thing that you're able to control are your voice or your mouth.
Casey is eager to communicate with his family and friends, but his facial muscles that help form sounds are deteriorating. The UC Davis team has developed a way to bring his voice back with a brain-computer interface. This time, they are targeting the left precentral gyrus, the part of the brain that includes the primary motor cortex and is connected to speech.
When we produce words, we're actually moving our mouths in a certain way. To make that happen, we move our tongues. And based on the neural data from those areas, we can then try to reconstruct what the intended word that we wanted to vocalize was.
Every sound we make is connected to a unique combination of muscle movements that begins in the brain.
So it's not that we're reading people's minds, we're not detecting their inner thought or their inner monologue. In essence, what we're doing is we're bypassing the injury. We're recording kind of from the source, from this part of the brain that's trying to send these commands to the muscles.
In July of 2023, the UC Davis surgical team implanted 4 separate devices onto Casey's brain, and it didn't take long to see and hear the results.
Okay, ready?
That first time that he tried to speak and that word appeared on the screen, he started crying, I started crying, his family started crying. Everyone composed themselves. They were like, all right, let's do it again. And it kept working. It was really special. It was a special moment.
Within 2 days, the system had grown its potential vocabulary to 125,000 words and was able to display Casey's words with a 90% accuracy rate. Within months, that accuracy grew to more than 97%.
This is by far the most accurate decoding ever reported.
The team then wanted to take this idea one step further. They didn't just want to return Casey's ability to communicate. They wanted to return his ability to use his own voice.
The easiest way to protect ourselves from mercury pollution is to limit our consumption.
By using video recordings that were collected prior to him having ALS, we were able to digitally reconstruct his voice. So now when he tries to speak, not only do words appear on the screen, but it sounds like him.
The results speak for themselves.
Not being able to communicate is so frustrating and demoralizing. It is like you are trapped. I hope that we are at a time when everyone who is like me have the same opportunity as I do to have a device like this that will help them communicate.
With his ability to communicate restored, 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁 has returned to work and estimates that he uses his BCI for some 70 hours per week. But while the results are extraordinary, surgeries like his still come with risk. Risk that the device will not implant as precisely as the surgeons hoped, or that the technology could become obsolete. There is also the threat of infection. These potential hazards have driven some researchers to look for another way to get a clear brain signal without implanting directly onto the brain itself. A company called Synchron believes it may have a solution. It has developed a technology that inserts a brain-computer interface, not on the brain itself, but inside a blood vessel that passes right along the motor cortex.
It sits on the surface of the brain and it listens to what's happening in the brain and then predicts what you're trying to move, and it converts that into a signal that goes out of the body to control a personal device. So we have our users think about trying to move certain parts of their body, and then we convert those into key presses that are used to make selections on the screen.
The receiver end of their device is called a stentrode, and it works largely like a traditional stent. Stents remain in place by pressing up against the walls of a blood vessel.
We've been really fortunate to see that the majority of people who have been implanted so far can use the technology readily. So we see one of our patients able to navigate a phone, others able to navigate tablets and even laptops. The opportunity to bring back the ability to communicate on someone's own terms is not only the humane thing to do, you know, it's a humane use of technology, but it's also medically necessary from a physical health standpoint.
We can already see what can happen when a brain is connected directly to a computer. But what if that connection included an additional link? What if that connection also bridged two parts of the human body that had previously been severed? In Lausanne, Switzerland, a team at NeuroRestore wanted to tackle this very problem. Their mission: to reconnect the brain and spinal cord of a person who'd lost the ability to walk. 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁 would be the first patient to test the technology.
12 years ago, I got an accident and had a spinal cord injury. So I'm not able to move my legs anymore.
His spinal cord was severed at the cervical level. So you have to imagine that the pathway, the highway from the brain to the muscles got disconnected due to this accident.
The team created a solution they call a brain-spine interface. The concept behind this technology mirrors the ones being developed at places like the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab and UC Davis.
Our idea was to re-establish this communication with a digital bridge, like an electronic communication between the brain and the region of the spinal cord that is still intact and can control the leg movement.
For 𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗀 to take advantage of this new technology, he'd have to undergo a pair of complex surgeries led by Dr. Jocelyn Bloch.
There is one surgery at the level of the brain. We do 2 little craniotomy, put electrodes in order to record the brain signal. And another surgery at the level of the spinal cord where we put electrodes on the top of the spinal cord at the place that is responsible for leg movement.
Before he could attempt to take a step, 𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗀, along with the team, would need to calibrate the device.
We ask the patient to visualize the different movements many times, and we have an algorithm, an artificial intelligence that will learn to recognize the signature, the electrical signature of these intentions.
Once the algorithm learns the signatures of the brain's intentions, it sends signals down to the implant in the spinal cord, bypassing the lesion, to stimulate the muscles to contract and initiate movement, allowing 𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗀 to do something the world had never seen before. Before his injury, the signals between 𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗀's brain and legs seemed to flow instantaneously. With this interface, however, there's a slight lag, which takes some getting used to.
We worked a lot to improve the latency, to decrease the time between his intention and the effect of the stimulation.
In a few sessions, everything is linked and the patient starts training.
The team designed a set of challenges and movement aids to support his rehabilitation.
His goal was really to improve his walking in everyday life, so we focused mostly on step height, different exercises to be able to regain muscle strength on the hips, have a high foot clearance, being able to walk independently and safely.
And it didn't take long for 𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗀 to see progress. But for the scientists, the biggest surprise was yet to come.
The rehabilitation triggered some plasticity and some neurological recovery by recruiting the spare fibers that were going through his lesion, that he regained functions even when the system was turned off.
As his training progressed, 𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗀 began to regain some ability to walk on his own with crutches.
This neurological recovery was actually one hypothesis of the trial. And that's why we measured his performance with and without stimulation.
Even after the clinical trial ended, 𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗀 continued to work with the digital bridge independently.
So recently, he told us that he was using the system and went to paint his walls. Everything that requires standing, walking around his house, he is happy to use the system for that. He still uses his wheelchair most of his daily activity, but now he can achieve things that he would never have been doing 10 years ago.
𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗀's efforts are helping the team understand not just what the digital bridge is capable of, but what its current limitations are as well. It's still in its early stages of development. It's bulky and too expensive to be made widely available. It also takes a lot of energy to operate.
We have an autonomy of about 2 hours in battery life. So the next step for our technology is to miniaturize everything so that the patient is able to turn on the stimulation in the morning, to turn off the stimulation at night without thinking about it, and being able to use it continuously throughout the day.
In clinical trials like this one, the users, like 𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗀, are the unsung heroes.
So for him, for 𝗥𝗲𝗯𝗀, participating to the study was really not only about himself and regaining function, but also participating to the advancement of the technology and be this pioneer for the study.
It was a long journey, but at the end I can really build functional things from it.
And the transformation in Jan life goes far beyond just day-to-day functional improvements.
I'm training 10 years to stand up with a friend having a beer. And that's something I think people don't realize.
Our brain is central to how we perceive and interact with the world around us. While many of the BCIs being developed today are helping us translate the brain's intentions into physical actions, others are testing how we can use BCIs to restore some of our senses. While the devices used by 𝗥𝗲𝗹 and 𝗥𝗲𝗋 𝗏 carry neural signals out of the brain where they originate, other technologies aim to do the opposite, transmitting signals from our sensory world across an injury and into the brain. Cochlear implants have transformed the lives of the hearing impaired by delivering stimuli directly to the auditory nerve.
Is it sounding better? Can you hear my voice now? Yeah? What about Mom's voice?
Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
So if that is possible, can we next return vision to the vision impaired as well?
Vision loss has a lot of similarities with the cochlear implants, with auditory loss. Where you decide to provide the visual information back to the user is where things are different. For example, you can interface with the retina directly. There's the optic nerve behind it, and then you can go all the way back to visual cortex. All these are part of the visual pathway that we rely on to be able to see.
These three components, our eyes, our optic nerve, and the visual cortex, all offer opportunities to bring vision to an impaired user. While some companies are developing systems that bypass the eye and optic nerve and stimulate the visual cortex inside the brain to create images, others are following a model similar to cochlear implants, developing retinal implants placed on the back of the eye.
A retinal prosthesis basically looks a little bit like the grid of electrodes that you place on the surface of the brain. It's just much smaller, still obviously made of biocompatible materials, and it sticks to the back of the eye.
From that position, the device can then stimulate the optic nerve. A company called the Science Corporation, with their retinal implant called Prima, has developed this idea further. The results of a recent clinical trial found that of the 32 people who received their implant and remained in the trial for a year, each one experienced improved vision. So how does it work? The system is designed for those suffering from degenerative diseases, like age-related macular degeneration, a condition that impacts the eye's field of vision. The source of the problem is the retina, which first receives the visual stimulus, then sends it to the brain via the optic nerve. With the Prima system, a special set of glasses with an integrated camera captures images in the wearer's field of view, then transmits the signals to a chip implanted in the retina, where they are then processed and transmitted to the brain's visual cortex. This video shows what those images appear like to the user. These initial results suggest that at least some forms of visual loss may soon be treatable with brain-computer interfaces. But there's another interesting angle to the Prima retinal implant. The device also includes a zoom function, something the eyes we are all born with do not have. It's an indication of how close we are to being able to use BCIs, not just to restore our human abilities, but to enhance them as well. How far we can push brain-computer interface technology will come down to how many points of contact we can make with the brain. Or, returning to a previous analogy, how many microphones we can install in the stadium of our mind.
In the future, the number of electrodes that we're going to be using with our study participants is going to be enormous. And the more access you have, the more capabilities you have.
Scientists can even imagine a time when BCIs have the ability to read one's thoughts.
In the future, particularly if we can start to decode covert speech or like internal monologue, you could have potentially textual input interfaces to computers where you don't have to move your fingers and you can just kind of, dialogue to the computer directly. We think that that's possible simply because there are still neural signals present when someone is not speaking, but is thinking of things to say. That whole idea of internal monologue, we see neural activity associated with it. We're not that great at decoding it, and it's a lower amplitude. It's just quieter, but it's still there.
And once BCIs are able to read thoughts, a next leap could be to go from reading internal monologues to actively sharing them between multiple people.
If I am able to think about what I'm saying and I can decode that accurately, then there will be a future in which then I can relay the information of what I'm thinking to another person telepathically.
I've learned a lot throughout my time researching brain-computer interfaces. I think first and foremost, I've learned that the human body is a very elegant structure that's very resilient in a lot of ways.
So when you work with BCIs and you start looking at the neural activity that the brain is producing, you kind of feel in awe of the immense amount of work that's being done by the brain in doing things that we take for granted every day.
In the future, more powerful devices with far more electrodes tapping into our nervous system will allow us to rehabilitate and enhance our bodies in ways that will challenge what we thought humans were capable of, and challenge, perhaps, what it means to be human. But today, what brain-computer interfaces are delivering is a new way forward for the courageous test subjects willing to offer their bodies and minds to this scientific revolution.
These nuggets that we extract and then transform them into actions in the real world that allow the users to regain capabilities that they didn't have, that they had lost due to the injury or the illness. Those are breathtaking moments, and this is kind of why we do the research that we do.